Is this, oh yeah, I'm on already. Good morning. I've been asked to moderate the first session here with speakers live, live in Hong Kong. I'm going to invite all three up on the stage. Florence Yu is with Coca-Cola, and Simeon Cheng with Vitasoy, and Nick Halla with Impossible Foods. And I saw Nick coming in. Hey Nick, how are you? And please find your seat. So I'll ask them to make introductions and talk about their brands and their companies, but please use the app and submit questions so that you don't leave me stranded here without questions, and make sure you ask a lot of good questions. The interesting thing is that when I looked at the speaker lineup is is the time in history here. 1886, Coca-Cola. 1940, Vitasoy, and 2011 is Impossible Foods. So we got some history here. I think Coca-Cola, of course, has an old heritage, and then when I look back at it, it's a product that goes back to 1886 and has developed since. And you've now got a full range of drinks and products. And I'll leave it to you to explain a little bit more. But you have faced challenges in the history in terms of the sustainability of your products and whether the products were good or bad. Vitasoy actually has a heritage that starts also as a sustainability issue. It started with Hong Kong refugees and lactose intolerance and finding alternative ways of getting people good quality food at a low cost. So I think Vitasoy starts at that. And Impossible Food starts with trying not to eat meat anymore. If I try to simplify that, you'll correct that a little bit. Good. So Impossible Foods is kind of what I call the new kids on the block. So future-friendly, green, clean, and less mean was the title I was given. There are probably three aspects: the environmental impacts of feedstocks, of production, of our distribution, about our packaging. Post-consumption packaging is a reason why Simeon and Florence and I know them quite well, because they're all part of a group called Drink Without Waste, where we try to get rid of post-consumption packaging in a proper way. And of course, carbon footprint, as was in the introduction speech. The second group is really health impacts, the ingredients, feed values, the risk, the consumption. And then the third one is the economic and social contributions of our organizations and the products and where we source them and how we source the materials and what we do and how we manage our staff and how we make sure that they are properly rewarded for their support. If I go in time of age, maybe then we start in 1886.
Thank you very much for having me here, and thank you, Paul, for the introduction. I'm Florence from Coca-Cola Company, and as mentioned, in fact, we do have a very long history. We have been in the market for over 130 years, and there are over 300 brands around the world. And in fact, in Hong Kong, we have over 12 brands in Hong Kong, covering like sparkling drinks, tea, juice drinks, sports drink, water, and functional drinks, like those added with vitamins and also dietary fiber. So in fact, our goal is to go beyond good. So what does it mean? In fact, we would like to go beyond good to refresh the world and make a difference. So we are trying to go beyond like just providing tasteful products to well-being. and also beyond recycling to reinventing, as well as beyond supporting and empowering. So let me elaborate a little bit more. So in Hong Kong, as mentioned, we do have like over 12 brands in Hong Kong, and over 40% of those products offer low and low calorie. So that's an option for consumer to choose from, whether you like to go for zero calorie product or you want something with more functional, like dietary fiber. And apart from that, on recycling, in fact, the company is very committed to create a world without waste. So this is the commitment that the CEO made in 2018. So by 2030, we are committed to collect and recycle the same amounts of products that we sell in the market. So we are not only taking back our own product, but also those produced by our friends in the industry. And we are not just focused on recycling, but we are also reinvent our products packaging. So as you might know, in fact, in Hong Kong, we have 100% recycled PET material on all our locally produced or natural water products. Apart from that, we are also a market leader to produce the water station that's made available across different areas in Hong Kong, especially in the country parks. So this is something that we do want to create a change among the consumers. And apart from that, we are also referring to like how we can support the community and empower them to make a change. So that's why we work with different partners, like as Paul mentioned, under Drink Without Waste. We work with our industry player, retail partners, as well as green groups, retail, and also waste management to help how to create a solution for Hong Kong so that the waste can have a solution and not sent to landfill. So here, kind of like a snapshot of what we've done in Hong Kong.
Thanks, Florence. Florence, I didn't see your company name on the list when it was presented. We had this chart of all those companies that we seem to be doing very good in sustainability. But Coca-Cola is not on there, and that must eke you. That must you must be hoping to do better and get on that list as a global group.
Yeah. In fact, we are very committed in everything that we do, and we also work closely with our partner, Coca-Cola, in Hong Kong and elsewhere in the world, so that with the joint efforts in the whole industry, then we can help make a change in Hong Kong.
Thanks. Now, Simeon, I'm jumping to just after the Second World War, Vitasoy. But you've only started with Vitasoy quite recently. When I met you, you were with the MTR, but you're now trying to help Vitasoy, a family company, step further and further into the area of sustainability.
Yeah, I've never imagined that I would be in F&B, you know, I was using the utility. But so I've joined Vitasoy about 11 months ago. But Vitasoy has been around for 80 years. As you mentioned, we started the company to address malnutrition at the time when society was in need for nutrition. So that purpose of the company was well established at the time, and 80 years later, I think the spirit of that purpose is still there. So we're now providing plant-based nutrition, but for a different purpose. You know, we try to roll out more healthier products, lower in fat and sugar, so people have a choice to go plant-based and have healthier choices. So with the purpose established, there is still a lot to do to reach sustainability. So we're trying to tackle a suite of issues, both environmental and social, everything from environmental to diversity and inclusion internally. So our sustainability framework is very easy to understand. It says making the right products and making products the right way. So, but a lot of these issues, some of these issues do require much wider collaboration if we were to be successful. Climate change is one, packaging is another. And also, I think there was a mention of how we work with our supply chain, and that is also important for us, as you know, most of our emission is actually in scope 3, so it's in the value chain, not, you know, direct or electricity use. in terms of percentage anyway. So, I think we are quite confident in improving our product portfolio, but it's the packaging that carry our food and beverage that is the issue that we are still trying to find a solution to crack, and that is too big an issue for any one company to be able to resolve. So we have open commitments on more plant-based products, more products in lower sugar range and lower fat range products. But packaging is the one that remains most difficult to resolve. So I hope the discussion today will bring upon some points that we can all take home and start acting upon it.
Yeah, so that's the interesting one. That Simeon and I got to know each other in a Drink Without Waste group. First, as the MTR, trying to help Drink Without Waste by trying to get dispensers installed, the water dispensers in the MTR stations, which is an issue. How do you make sure that people don't slip when there's a bit of water falls on the floor, or how to make sure that there's proper drainage when you're below ground and you haven't designed the station for it. And Simeon and his team have been pretty active on helping us out, and now helping out Vitasoy. Must be interesting trying to identify the carbon footprint of the feedstock.
Yes, interesting is an understatement. It's challenging. So scope 3, if I assume the audience have some understanding of what it is. So indirect emission other than electricity and energy use. So we've only just done a rough estimate, and I think over 85% of our emission actually come from scope 3, so in our supply chain. So obviously, feedstock is a main component of that, and so yeah, we're working on it. We're not quite there yet, so we have to put inventory together, and then we can look at targets and how we.
Yeah, and the issue you referred to in terms of the packaging. So what Vitasoy is struggling with, and Coca-Cola less so, is when you have Coca-Cola in a plastic PET bottle that is recyclable, then it has a good shelf life. But you try to put Vitasoy milk in a plastic PET bottle that's transparent and recyclable, then the shelf life of the product goes down dramatically. So then there are challenges there. So and then how do you get a product, packaging product, material product that it can be used to make sure that the shelf life stays up, but we have a recyclable product that it can be actually then be part of that circular economy that we're all aspire to. That is the big challenge at Vita. But the great thing is that both Coca-Cola and Vitasoy are in the Drink Without Waste group. We're all contributing to trying to figure out solutions to this, and actively so. I mean, there is no sitting still on this topic, and we're going to be able to make announcements on it quite soon. Nick, you're the new kid on the block. That's what I wrote down here. 2011, Impossible Foods.
Yeah, it's an honor to be up here with such big legacy companies. And I'll talk a little bit about the soy side too, because we've done a lot of research on that. But for Impossible Foods, I'm Nick Halla. I run an international business. So our mission is to restore global biodiversity, avert the catastrophic damage of climate change by transforming our food system. And the only way to do that is to replace all the meat, fish, and dairy foods that we eat today with better products from plants. So our mission is to produce the most delicious, nutritious, affordable as we scale, and much, much more sustainable meat, fish, and dairy foods, all directly from plants, and then let consumers choose. And by making products that are better, that outperform anything an animal could ever do, it becomes a very easy consumer choice. So for the last 9 years, we've been breaking down what actually gives meat, fish, and dairy foods their very unique sensory pleasures and transformative properties as you cook. Then we go in the plant-based world and we look for new ways to do this, better ways to do this directly from plants. And you can use soy as an example of a plant-based ecosystem where it's roughly 1%, give or take, of the global land surface is used for soy. But there's more protein in soy than the whole meat consumption in the world. The challenge is that we feed it to animals first. And animals are very inefficient. So if you take a beef cow as an example, and you take all the nutrients a cow consumes versus the meat that we consume out today, it's a 3% efficient technology. So if we go directly to the plants, we could feed the entire world with a tiny fraction of the land, a tiny fraction of the environmental emissions and environmental degradation that we have today. And that's our mission. So we get asked a lot of whether we're a technology company or a food company. And the best answer our founder said is, we're a planet company. The only reason we exist is to make the planet a more sustainable place. And really all our decisions are driven by that. So about the first 5 years of the company were all basic research, understanding how to understand and create products. We launched Impossible Beef, Impossible Burger about 4 years ago in the US. We've now grown that to about 30,000 restaurants, more than 10,000 retail doors. When we do blind tastings with consumers, meat consumers love it. And I've had so many meat consumers come up to me and say, I never thought I could eat plant-based until I tried Impossible. Because what consumers are looking for is they're looking for that experience. They're not necessarily looking for it coming from an animal. That's just the way they can get it today. So our mission is very clear that we have to outperform the animal on every metric that a consumer cares about. And as we do that, we'll change the system and we can drive a massive sustainability impact. So Impossible Beef, we use about 96% less land, 89% less greenhouse gas emissions, 87% less water than beef from a cow. And we're only getting better. We're only getting started. So here in Hong Kong, we launched 2 years ago. We knew that Asia would be a really big focus for us. 44% of global meat is consumed in Asia. And so we knew we had to tackle this to achieve our mission. The market's been growing great. Just this year, we've grown the restaurant count about 150%. Last week, we launched our retail product here for the first time. And it's really exciting to watch consumers now take this in their homes in Asia and cook whatever you want. Because what we give is raw product you can cook into meatballs, dumplings, burgers, really anything you make out of ground meat you can make from Impossible, so the consumer can customize it to their tastes. And so we're still just getting started, but it's exciting to see more and more people have Impossible and more people understand how much sustainability and their food are tied. When we started in the US, we did a survey and you look at the purchase drivers of food, and for plant-based meat, sustainability is right at the bottom. It's taste, it's nutrition, and way at the bottom is sustainability. Now it's number 3 for purchase driver. Consumers are completely changing what they're buying products on, and sustainability is rising very fast.
So if you take the consumers in the audience and to wake everybody up, this is like, who drinks Coca-Cola, drinks from the Coca-Cola company? Okay, who drinks Vitasoy products? Who eats Impossible Foods? Oh, that's a good stretch in the audience. We got everybody.
I like this audience.
I didn't believe Impossible Foods for I must say, I was a skeptic. It was like, why you want to kind of educate people on eating pretend meat? Until my son was in town, who's a heavy meat eater. I think his diet is 80% meat and everything else is accidental. And I took him for an Impossible Burger and he loved it. So, and I go like, okay, so there is a real target audience here that I may not believe in. But how sustainable is the use of these plant-based products? I mean, what do you guys do to, Vitasoy is now considering, as Simeon has explained, it's his real concern about the kind of the footprint of the input, the feedstock for his products.
Yeah, so sustainability is the core of every choice that we make as a company. And by far the biggest impact we can have on driving sustainability is converting meat eaters over to Impossible. And so what we track for metrics is how many of our consumers are meat eaters, how much of their consumption are we turning from meat to Impossible. And a recent survey showed that about 90% of our consumers are meat eaters. Approximately three quarters of the purchases are directly in replace of meat from an animal. And that's the direct impact that we have on making the world and the environment much better. We look a lot at packaging, as you were talking about too. The reality is the packaging is a tiny, tiny fraction of the sustainability impact of meat. And so we're going to make choices and make the most sustainable package that we can and use that while maintaining product integrity and shelf life and things that are important to a consumer. We did launch a direct-to-consumer business where we did a lot of work on making sure all the packaging was recyclable, compostable, and sustainable as we're going, because it is still core to what we're doing. Still, the biggest impact by far is replacing meat from animals, and that's what we're going to focus on 99% of the time.
So, Simeon, your challenge is somewhat different. I mean, you've got a very old, traditional Hong Kong company, and then Nick. Nick is a company that's born to revolutionize and change things, and you're coming into a company that's been doing the same thing for a long time, and is very confident that they've done a good thing for a long time, and you've got to make change in that. How does that go? How's the challenge? You didn't expect that question.
Well, no, I fully expect difficult question from you. Now, what change is always difficult, but I think consumers are sending us the message that we need to change, and if we were to continue to be successful, then we need to go along with that change. And part of it is offering that choice and offering information to help our consumers choose. And increasingly, people are demanding that sort of information. Tell us how we should choose so that we can be healthier. So I think we're just riding on that wave. So that part is easy, but then coming up with the right products and fortifying with functional ingredients. How do we make low sugar version tastes as good as the full sugar version? That requires innovation and a lot of research.
Because the sugar levels can be high in the original product formula, is it?
Yes, there are some very popular products that are high in sugar. So I think at the moment we're leaving them as a sort of an indulgent sort of product. We don't think people are sort of consuming it like day in day out 3 times a day for every meal. So every now and then, when I'm all stressed out, I might go have a have a VLT. But I think we're just trying to offer more choices so that people can switch in time.
Is it the same strategy that Coke is following, Florence?
Yes, as I mentioned earlier, in fact, we do have like 40% of our products which are low in calorie. And quite a lot of those are in fact from the original version. So that's why we think an original together with a low calorie option is crucial for consumers to make their own choice. And apart from that, we are also fast expanding the unsweetened tea portfolio, Authentic Tea House, which now offer like 7 variants already. And we see the demand on like low sugar or without sugar is increasing very fast. So that's why this is an area that we focus quite a lot on. And apart from these product portfolio, I think the key for us as a leader in the market is to drive change on sustainability. And I guess for now, because it has been quite set for quite some time, but whether people do like bring their own bottles, say like what I do now, and find a water station around in the city to have their water filled is something that I would really see more of this kind of culture change. Because this is a way that we can save maybe 1 bottle, but at the same time, we do offer choices to consumer. And these has to be kind of like a behavioral change, which won't happen overnight. But I guess with more options available in the market, then people would like to make the change on their own as well.
Questions from the audience? If there are people with questions out there. Edwin. There's Edwin with a, is it possible to have a floating microphone? I know that you were supposed to type in questions into Edwin, I know we're supposed to type into an app, but the app is, I don't know where it is. Okay, here you go. That's where the app is. All right, I don't know.
Thank you for this is quicker.
Cheers.
I had a question for Simeon from Vitasoy. Will your company use any genetically modified ingredient for your product? And also maybe for Nick, for your ingredient. Thank you.
No, so we have a policy and which we have published in the public domain. So we are committed to no GM ingredient in all our products. So we have an internal quality team that does audits to make sure we fulfill those requirements. And we also ask our supplier to supply certificates to make sure there's no contamination.
I have some questions that come in here. I'm not sure how the app works. I was too late to get my briefing on that one, but there's an app here, you can put questions and then they come on my screen. I got a question here, how green are you really? How are both Vitasoy and Coca-Cola working towards green packaging at source or recycling the Tetra Paks and single-use plastic bottles? Well, we have meetings about this all the time, so you should have a very quick answer on that one. Florence.
And I know this is quite a long journey for us because, as mentioned, our CEO made a pledge to create a world without waste in 2018. And by 2030, we would like to collect and recycle 100% of our packaging that we sold, and then collect and recycle them. So it seems like a decade away, but then in fact, we as a whole in the Drink Without Waste, we work on this very frequently in the past 3 years. And in fact, in the past decade, as Coca-Cola, we also work with a lot of environmental groups in Hong Kong to help recycle the PET. To the external audience, it might not be a lot, but then I guess every step, every action makes a change. And so that's why we, just like last week, we announced our new partnership with another environmental group, together with New Life Plastic, which is the first local plastic recycling plant to be in operation in Q1 next year. Its name is New Life Plastic. So in Hong Kong, the plastics will be able to be recycled locally by them. And I understand there were quite a lot of skepticism and also concern about whether the plastics collected will definitely be handled properly. And I can assure you that with the NLP, New Life Plastic, then all the collected bottles will be properly handled. And so I hope that by then people would have more confidence, and also we will support to create more credibility and also transparency on how those bottles collected will be handled. So this is also an area that we have find kind of like challenging, because we do want to work on our bit, also work collaboratively with all the industry players, because we as a Hong Konger, we love this space and we do want to see it without waste in the landfill.
Simeon, you want to highlight where you are with Vitasoy on the packaging?
Yeah, okay. So Florence already talked about PET. Maybe I'll say a few words on the paper cartons. Our key supplier is working on a solution. So to make the packaging itself easier to recycle and has less components, so that it can be separate, with more ease. But that's the sort of innovation that would take time. So we are in regular conversation with them and see whether they can come up with something better in the future, in the near future. And then I think right now in Hong Kong, the best solution we have is the recycling plant in Yuen Long. Now, I think it was Edwin's group who issued a figure in 2018. I think Hong Kong itself throw out, correct me if I'm wrong, 24,500 tons, right, of paper cartons per year. And at that time, the recycling rate was 0. None of it was recycled. So when this recycling plant came along, we have no shares in it, but we want to help it to be successful, because it's really our own solution now, our only solution now. So we kicked off a program. We started with schools because we have an arm that serves lunches to schools. So we thought it's a good place to start. And then we extended that program to shopping malls and supermarkets and other retail outlets and housing estates. Now it is basically a collection box that takes the Tetra Pak, the paper cartons basically, and they will get collected and sent to Yuen Long for recycling. At first, we thought it is a big ask, because we are asking people to finish the drink, cut it open, wash it, dry it, and then bring it back. So we thought, for Hong Kong people, something that is so convenient and involves so many steps, it's just it's no go. But we thought, we'll give it a try. We'll start with children, we'll start with schools, and then we'll see how we go. But lately, we have been getting some very encouraging results. So we started with Yata Group, Yata Supermarket. So they agreed to put those collection boxes in all their supermarkets, so all 12 of them. And we actually see consumers bringing back stacks of it, all cut open, cleaned according to instruction, and they will stand there and put it in the collection box. And just in the past 6 months, past 12 months, our contribution to the recycling plant is 120 tons a year. Still far from recycling the whole of Hong Kong's waste disposal on paper cartons. But I think it's a start, and I think we have to accelerate that. And if people have this mindset of not willing to go into the trouble of clean recycling and bring it back, I think the solution is in front of us.
So I just give, then we can move away from packaging onto other topics being raised here. Drink Without Waste is actively working. So we got the recyclers, we got the beverage companies, we got the retailers, we got large NGOs, we got large institutions like MTR and the Jockey Club involved. The recycling plant for PET bottles that is coming on stream later this year, early next year. SSID, Mill is doing the recycling of Tetra Packs. You've recently seen that government has skinned over these metal bins on the side of the road, says recyclables here, or whatever it says on the top panel right now. So only put your recyclable materials in there, plastic bottles, metal and paper. We are getting out a producer responsibility scheme in Hong Kong soon, where there is some value attached to when you return your plastic bottle. There is a lot of things coming ahead of us now, so I'm confident that this issue is going to be addressed. And watch the news for announcements later this year and early next year on these topics. So I'm confident on that things are moving. You don't have packaging challenges, but you have some other questions that come in here on soy is to replace meat in a goal to reduce environment impact. But the soybean industry is probably the most damaging industry for the environment, massive deforestation, genetically modified. So is it really better? That is the question you probably have to answer regularly.
Yeah, definitely. And it goes back to that efficiency question that I started with in the initial part. So if you look at the soybean crop today, like I said, there's more protein in the soybean crop than all meat that we consume. If you look at the animal agriculture industry, that occupies 45% of the global arable land surface, where the soy crop is closer to 1. And we can feed the entire population on that tiny, tiny footprint. The challenge is we take these crops and we feed them to animals first. And the animals are extremely inefficient. So we could drastically reduce the amount of land we use for cultivation and crops and grazing by switching over, which then drastically reduces the environmental impact across the system.
So you reduce some problems, but you can't address all the problems.
It addresses all the main problems head on. So it's like if you look at now, the system today has been designed to feed animals. So you design a system for animal nutrition, then we use the animal for human nutrition. Now, the optimal system for human nutrition, if we look 5, 10, 20 years down the road, is different. And so we're gonna see a transformation in the agricultural system from growing crops for animals to growing crops for humans, and those crops and the way you grow them will change, for sure. But you can't do it all up front. And we looked at a lot of research of future proteins. We still do a lot of work on this. But if we wanted to design the entire supply chain along with the entire product and start an entire consumer movement at the same time, it would take a lot longer. So start the consumer movement and continue to adapt the supply chain to optimize over time to create a much more sustainable system, orders of magnitude from where we are today.
Okay, I'll drill further because there's another question comes in there. We humans have to eat meat. If I do the question in short, and I'm going to have a diet of plant only, then I miss out on my meat. Is that going to do something to my body?
It's another good question we get all the time. If you look at a lot of the health and nutrition studies, plant-based diets continually rise to the top of the longest lifespans that humans have. And there's a lot of arguments that people have made of why we need to eat meat. And if we look at it from a nutritional standpoint, and we can use Impossible as an example, our product has 19 grams of protein, amino acid balance is essentially the same as meat from an animal. We have less fat, less saturated fat. All the micronutrients you expect to get from meat from an animal we can put in, but we have no cholesterol, no hormones, no antibiotics. So if you look at all the nutritional aspects, we put all the nutrition in that people expect to get from meat, and then we leave the things out that people don't want to get because we have a lot more control. And I'll kind of take myself as an N of one, as I grew up on a beef and dairy farm. And so I've eaten a lot of meat in my life, and maybe more like your son, and my diet was pretty much every meal. And I think as I've transitioned off meat over time, for the most part, energy-wise, health-wise, like everything, like for me personally, is like at the top of my performance. And I've always been an athlete too, and I look at a lot of stuff from a performance standpoint. So I think, you know, there definitely is the connection in society to eating meat and experience, but it's really around the experience and the nutrition. So if we can give consumers that experience and the nutrition you're looking to get from meat, there's really no reason a consumer would want or need to have it come from an animal.
So if I take another difficult question here, you've got 3 companies that make money out of food production. How committed are you to just promote consume less, eat less? And how much do you contribute to that? That's a question here. Is it still difficult to contemplate simply consuming less? And how can we disassociate consumption from well-being and be mindful of what brings us true fulfillment beyond consumerism? So as companies who are promoting consumption at all times, how can you get to this point? I know this is a difficult one. It goes all quiet. So who grabs the microphone first?
Sure, I'll jump in since I was just talking anyway.
But I'm gonna be with you too, so I'll be thinking about your answers.
I think I don't know if eating less is necessarily the right question. Like, people need to eat to live, and eating the right things, more sustainable foods, healthier foods, more nutritious foods, are really what we need to get to consumers to do, and then have less waste. I mean, if you look at a lot of the food systems, there's 30, 40, sometimes 50% of food goes wasted. And so I think if we focus on a lot of that more than limiting what people eat, because I mean, most people aren't overeating so badly that they're driving environmental degradation from that or consumption issues. You're going to eat what you need for fuel for your body and enjoyment.
Especially in Hong Kong.
I think
they have an obesity problem like they have in the States.
Sure, and you can definitely talk about obesity, and I think that still comes back a lot to eating the right foods, not necessarily eating less, but eating the right foods.
You want to pick it up? I mean, you're probably one of the biggest marketeers in the world in terms of advertising spend. So there is this challenge out here.
Yeah, I think it's a big question, and it all depends on the individual's belief. And I would say select wisely instead of making it to consume less, because I guess every one of us needs something, maybe to maintain our well-being or some sort of pressure or refreshment. So somebody would go for like a glass of water with some slice of lemon, but some people might go for another, like maybe a wine or something. So I would say it really depends on the individual's perspective. And from us, I think how we can do this responsibly is something that we aim to do. So that's why we would like to go beyond good, as I mentioned. And how we can create a world without waste, that's to create less. And also, if we use it, then whether we can get those collect and recycle. I guess this is the key that we hope to achieve.
More sustainable. Simeon, anything you'd like to add to this?
Well, I don't think we are actively asking people to consume less, but our advertisements are mainly focused on the choice, of the range of products that we have. So I guess that indirectly, a lot of sort of cravings build on having, a high sugar, high fat content diet. And so if people are moving away from that, that's indirectly will, and naturally, if the craving goes away or become less pronounced, then I think people will consume less. I think that's the whole notion of having a healthy diet. When you're satisfied, then you're less likely to consume more. So yeah, I think that's all.
Okay, well, so, but for both of you, then because you sell both water now, yeah, for Vitasoy selling, you're not selling packaged water. You have, do you sell packaged water? You sell packaged water. So okay, then you got a question here from somebody who says like, Hong Kong water is potable, is drinkable, and its supply is safe and clean. Why should you promote bottled water? And as a company, why wouldn't you just step away from that and promote bring your own bottle?
Good question. Then we are not growing.
It's 50% of the plastic bottles going to waste is people drink water. We're all bringing our own bottle here, so.
I actually don't know how, when, or why we started the water business. I have to go back and ask. But I know for a fact that we're not growing that part of the business. So we are expanding other portfolio, but not water.
All right.
So it will stay flat, and then I think we're all waiting for that consumer signal. Shall we
get more dispensers in? Exactly.
If I
and
may
trust
add,
the water.
I guess as I introduced earlier, we do have the Bonaco water station, which is over like 100 machines around the city now. It's an area that we do want to develop more, and as an alternative to packaged water, because we well understand that people need option, and by producing more and having a cultural change of us carrying our own bottle every day in, day out, then I guess that would definitely help to have a change on people's habits.
Well, on that note, we've come to the end of this session. I'd like to thank the audience for your fantastic set of questions, and not all of them have been answered, but I've been able to ask more. Florence, Coca-Cola, thank you very much and Simeon and Nick Halla. That's all. Thank you for it. Thank you.